Happy New Year! My name is Kendra McRae, and I'll be walking through the solution for week 1 of Workout Wednesday 2021. In this week's challenge, we wanted to see the percentage of U.S. households that experience food insecurity by year. We wanted to be able to allow the user to select any year that they wanted to focus on, as well as understand how that year compares to some pre-populated comparison periods in here. So we have the first year, the most recent year, and the previous year. So let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to bring in our data. So as you can tell, it's a little funky, so I'm going to go ahead and use the data interpreter to do some quick cleanup. I know that I'm not going to use this field, so I'm going to go ahead and hide it. This is a pretty lengthy field name, so I'm going to go ahead and change that to something short and sweet like food insecurity. And I noticed that the year field is coming across as an integer, and it really should be a date. So it gives me the month, the day, and the year, but I really just want to have the year. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick calculation to parse the year out from that field. So we're going to use our date parse function. We want to bring that date part and I'm going to go ahead and wrap this in another date function. Okay. I'm going to create the parameters. There's 2 of them in this challenge. The first one is select the year, and this is a date field, and then it's also going to be a list. And as I don't really feel like typing all the individual years between 1995 and 2019, I'm just going to go ahead and bring that in from the field that we just created. It's not quite in the format that I would want, so I'm just going to go ahead and format this as a custom format field and bring across the year, make this to 2019, and then let's go ahead and create the second parameter, which is the comparison period. And this will be a string, another list. And so I think it was the first year, most recent year, and the previous year. Cool. And let's go ahead and bring that, show those parameters in the view. All right. So let's start building our view here. So we're going to drop that in the columns area as a continuous field. We're going to bring over our food insecurity. So now we have our trend going, but we need to have the dots that focus on the years that the user has selected or wants to see. So the first thing we got to do is identify those years for those selections. So let's go ahead and create a calculated field. Let's just call this identify the years. And so basically all we want to know is if this comparison period equals, let's say the first year, then take the minimum year in the view and then we're going to say else if goes most recent year then we want to take the max else give us the previous value, which is just going to be from the previous year, from what the user had selected. And we're going to go ahead and end that. Great. And then now let's find the values that correspond to those years. For selections. All right. So we want to say if the year equals the parameter, the selected year, or the year equals that new identify the year of the comparison periods, then give us food insecurity, else n. Now Tableau is not really going to like this because it's going to tell us that we're mixing aggregate and non-aggregate arguments here. So let's go ahead and wrap some of this stuff in an attribute function. Probably need to close that parentheses, forgot one there, and all good. Great. So now let's go ahead and test the waters and see what it looks like when we drag it into the view. So let's synchronize our axis. Let's set these marks to be circles. All right. And so it looks like so we have our first there. Should only probably see one dot for the max or the most recent year. And there we go. So it looks like it's working. We have the previous year. But the issue is we can't, the user is not going to be easily able to distinguish between which one is which because they're the same color. So let's go ahead and create a calculated field so that we can color our marks. So let's just call this color the dots. And this is just going to be a true false statement. And all it's going to say is, does the year equal the selected year? All right. And so let's bring this into the view and see if it works. And fantastic. So it is doing exactly what we want this to do. We'll do all the formatting and everything else a little bit later, but we kind of know functionally that it's working. So now let's talk about getting some of the values for our title. So we're going to have to create a couple of calculated fields that will be persistent, and also won't give us the funky ranges, a range of values sometimes that you'll see. So I'm going to use a few lookup calculations to enable that. So let's get started with the first one. So the first thing I need to do is find the value for the selected year. So I just want to say if the year equals the selected year, then bring food insecurity. And then end, right? Well, and then I want to just wrap all this into a lookup function. All right. And then I need a second calculation to find the values for the comparison periods. And so this is just going to be just a quick series of lookup calculations based off of the options that we have in the parameter. So the first one is, so we want to say if the comparison equals first year, then give me the lookup. Just going to go ahead and copy this just for the sake of time, and this is going to be just an else if statement, and we are going to change this to most recent year, and then this is just going to go to last, and if it's just the previous value, which is the remaining option, then we want it to look up food insecurity. And normally it's, if you want a previous value, it's -1, right? But since this will constantly jump, we don't want to put a constant here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically essentially have a running like a calculation that always ends up in -1. And then I'm going to just create another lookup here, and I'm going to end. Right. So we have that, and then the next calculation is pretty straightforward, and this is just the variance. So we're just going to grab this over, oh, I think I grabbed the wrong field. So we're going to grab that, and take that over 1. And I'm just going to bring this into our details shelf, our area. I'm going to set this so that it's dynamic to the selected year. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Cool. And let's just bring this into the view and just see what we get. So I'm going to just check and make sure that things make sense first. So I'm going to put this here, and we'll worry about formatting in a minute. And I just want to bring it across the variance and just see what type of values that I get. And so if 2019 is a selected year, I should see, cool. So I know that this works. So now we gotta worry about formatting, but structurally, everything is working as expected. So let's go ahead and do some quick formatting tips so that we can be done. So we're going to get rid of this secondary header from our dual axis. We're going to clean this axis up and get rid of that axis title. I want to get rid of all of these grid lines and all that stuff. So get rid of our dividers, clean this up a bit. And I want to make that a solid line. Get rid of our column divider there. All right, so I'm going to, because these are actually percentages versus whole numbers, even though the data had it as a whole number. So I'm going to go ahead and change the formatting for that. And because I am lazy, I'm just going to go ahead and add the percent sign to the suffix for this value to get this moving. And then I want to change the color of this line to be black. This line's a little thicker than I want, so I'm going to go ahead and change the size for this. I also want to get this color, my circular marks together, so Let's go and say this one was supposed to be that pink, so I think it's 7B. And if it's not, we wanted this to be black. Cool. Let's get our tooltips together. I think it was just the year and the actual amount. And then I'm just going to steal, just for the sake of time, the tooltip that we had here. Great. I think this was like set to like 12. All right, I don't want that to show up as the month, year, day, so let's just format that. Great. Fantastic. All right, so my tooltips are done. What else? Oh, and I had to update this. So let's go ahead and just change that to similar to what we had, but I'm going to be inconsistent a bit. I probably need to change it in the pane. Okay. And I want to change the number format of my variance using Unicode. Again, I'm going to steal this from here. Oops. And my arrows. Custom number format there. All right, great. And then let me just see what else I had in this header, just to save some time. I had this as 24. And I think this was the pink color. And let's go ahead and bring in our parameter, which I'm going to label it the same so that there's context there. This was the same size as this, so 11. And I think this was like versus, oops. Going to make space for our parameter selectors in the dashboard view. So there we go. Oops. I meant to bring over the parameter. Comparison period. There we go. Great. And then we're just going to bring this into the dashboard. And I'm going to get rid of the stuff that I don't care about. I'm going to turn this into a floating object in view. Let's get rid of this title because we're not going to need that. And I'm just going to resize this to kind of make it look like a standalone drop down. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. And there you have it. that is the solution for this week's challenge. So you can see that it is moving as expected. We'll get rid of this over here, and there you go.